Welcome back to This Week in Pro Football. Pat Callahan here with Sal Paolantonio. And I want to talk about the league's best team right now, the Philadelphia Eagles, after a convincing win on the road in Baltimore. All right, Sal, give me your thoughts on that game real quick. And also, let me just posit this to you. The Eagles almost seem, Sal, they start slow. It seems like they're almost taking the measure of their opponent in the first quarter. And then once they figured out exactly what their opponent's best punch is, then they just take the game over from there.
Yeah, I think you're right, Pat. I think that's 100% right. It seems like they're looking for what the opponent is revealing in the first and second quarter, tactically, schematically, and approach. And then they're responding to it, and they have basically a response to whatever the Rams put up or the Ravens put up or certainly the Bengals put up. And you see that pattern over and over. And it was different last week in many ways. Like last week, without Devontae Smith on the field, the Ravens defense decided to play too deep almost exclusively. And they gave A.J. Brown a cushion with a rookie corner, Nate Wiggins, on him. And Jalen Hurts recognized it, and Kellen Moore recognized it, and they hit a couple of slant routes that opened things up for Dallas Goedert. That's how they got that touchdown. They only had a completion. Their longest completion of the game was 17 yards. Their longest completion to A.J. Brown was 15 yards. So they did it a little bit differently in the lead up to the closer, Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley in the fourth quarter, and I sent the numbers to you this morning, is on a record-setting pace, rushing touchdowns in the fourth quarter. He's the closer. It's enter the Sandman, just like Mariano Rivera of the New York Yankees. Yep. You are absolutely correct. They take the measure, and then they respond accordingly, and they're doing it very smart.
Yep, this is, according to ESPN research, it's a third straight game in which Barkley had 50 rush yards and a touchdown in the fourth quarter. Tying Terrell Davis and Barry Sanders for the longest streak, going back to 1978 when it was first tracked. This guy is absolutely dominant. Now, Sal, you know me, I can always find the dry part of the glass, right? And so I always know where the glass is half empty. And I watched Christian McCaffrey just walk off the field for the nth time in 2024. And my question is, should the Eagles now, with 5 weeks to go, should they be taking a look at this? He's on pace to touch the ball 390 times this year versus the 339 times that McCaffrey touched it last year. You think the Eagles are looking at this?
They're looking at it. Clearly, they are. They're being reminded of it every week by reporters such as myself. We saw a little Craig Shipley last week. We see some design runs out of Jalen Hurts. Kenneth Gainwell is obviously a good 4-minute offense running back. But now you have this situation where your best player, the biggest star in the league, Saquon Barkley is the biggest star in the league right now. Josh Allen is, in my opinion, Josh Allen's number 2.
Right.
All eyes are on Saquon. Can he eclipse Eric Dickerson? Can he get the MVP as a running back? I don't see how you take him off the field, Pat. I really don't. I just don't. I think it's very, very hard to do. He's on a mission, and he looks strong. Knock on wood, he looks strong.
He certainly does.
He's not getting any slower.
Yep. I think he's having the most fun of any player in the NFL right now.
I would agree with that.
Yep. And all right, Sal, I want to ask you this too about the head coach. A month ago, you and I, after a near loss to Jacksonville of all teams, it looked like, man, the brickbats were being hurled at Nick Sirianni. A month later, he is one of the toasts of the NFL. The way the Eagles are just steamrolling people. How did he do it?
Well, and I don't know why the odds are 40-1 for him to be coach of the year.
Yeah.
I mean, after Dan Campbell, where are you going with your vote for coach of the year? Yeah. The guy's winning 72% of his road games. He's 4th all-time in winning percentage, all time. And the 3 guys ahead, all time. And the 3 guys ahead of him are in the Hall of Fame. So I don't know where you're going with him at 40-1 to win coach of the year. How did he do it? I think he listened to his offensive line to run the football. Tim McManus had a great piece on ESPN.com about that. Go back and look for it. Ask Tim about it when you have him on later. He listened to the players, specifically Jalen Hurts. They had a nice meeting of the minds after the loss to Tampa Bay during the bye. That was clear. That happened. Practice habits changed because Vic Fangio wanted them to change in terms of tackling and the length of practices. I think it was collaborative. In this world, if you're going to get ahead, it's not about laying down the law. You have to have collaboration with people that you work with, and I think Nick Sirianni has done that. My hat is off to him.
Yeah.
The great Parcells line of all time is, "You are what your record says you are."
Right. Yeah. Well,
So
46 and 22. Yeah, I'll say 46 and 22. That's not bad. That's not bad. Yeah. Yep. You are right about that. He's done a remarkable job. I don't think there's any denying it. And you're right. He does deserve a ton of the credit. Now, you were kind enough to send me the notes from the press conference, too. He had one quote in there that I want to ask you about where he said, "I was always taught," quote, this is him quoting him now, "players, formation, plays." And it struck me only because I think he was obviously ordering them for a reason. Is that how you think he deals with his team each week? Players come first, get them in position, and then watch them make the plays?
Yeah, I think so. And that's a mantra for every successful head coach.
Right.
I mean, whether you have Lawrence Taylor or Tom Brady, or you have Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown, you look specifically, let's try to be as specific as possible in our answers, because that's a very, very good question, Pat. Mm-hmm. And you picked out the one detail that I thought was the most important in that press conference. Go back and watch the Ravens game like I did. So I like to watch the offense because we do a lot of that on the matchup show.
Right.
And I was there and I watched it happen live, and I wanted to make sure that I got it right. The Ravens decided to put a rookie corner on A.J. Brown. No Devontae Smith on the field.
Right.
Dallas Goedert is still dealing with a hamstring injury. A.J. Brown is going to be their first and only read in the passing game.
Right.
A.J. Brown is isolated as the Z receiver to Jalen Hurts' right. Nate Wiggins, the rookie corner, is 12 yards off the ball. Jalen Hurts looks over there for about a millisecond. The ball snapped to him, and within 2 seconds, the ball is out. And you've got a 12-yard gain to A.J. Brown, and they did that about 3 or 4 times.
Right.
And that is adjustments on the fly by the quarterback, the wide receiver, the offensive coordinator, and the head coach, all reacting to in-game situation.
Right.
That's what is that? Players.
Yeah.
Formation.
Yeah.
Make a play.
Right. Yeah. That's about it. And it's all right. What you said a minute ago. I mean, the guy does deserve a ton of credit for the way he stood up. He knew he was losing control, and he stood up. He turned it around. He deserves credit.
That's it. It's the old adage, Pat. It's not how you act. It's how you react that separates the haves from the have-nots.
All right, Sal, pal, listen. Something else you sent me that I want to bring up on the screen now, Zander, if you'll do that, and that is the remaining schedules of the Eagles and the Lions. So, Sal, I'm going to break the rule again. I'm going to go. It's going to be this coming month in pro football. All right. So,
okay, Pat.
This is the Eagles and Lions remaining schedule, Sal, and I have to say, my look at it is that the Eagles, I think, have a much easier path here if you look at it. Panthers, I think the only marquee game left, I think, on the Eagles' schedule is the Steelers game. But I think Philly will win that game. And the Commanders will always play them tough. On the right side, Sal, give me your thoughts on that Lions schedule, which includes Packers at 49ers, and then home, and then Bills and Vikings.
All right, tomorrow night, week 14, Packers at Lions. So Packers do well in Detroit. They have a couple of key injuries, however, in that game, and Jordan Love is still susceptible to the dreaded turnover.
Yeah,
it's a tough game to pick. Really tough game to pick. Then they play the Bills. They're going to lose to the Bills.
Yeah.
They're going to lose to the Bills. Bills are too good right now. Then they go at the Bears. They'll win that game. At 49ers is not going to be easy, Pat.
No. It won't be easy. It won't
It
be
won't
easy.
be
I
easy.
agree. That's a proud team, and they might still be in the NFC West hunt. That's
which
right.
is wide open. So, and then they have the Vikings at home, and I think they beat the Vikings.
Yeah.
So they have 1, 2, 3 really tough games.
Right.
I think on the Eagles side, the Eagles only really have 2 tough games. That's Steelers and at Commanders.
Right.
Although if the Cowboys win the next 3,
yeah,
right, where will the Cowboys be? They'll be
that Cowboys, if they win the next 3, they'll be 8-7.
They'll be 8-7. And then week 17, Cowboys at Eagles becomes a very interesting game for the Cowboys.
Yeah. The Cowboys, they host Cincinnati Monday night, Sal, then at Carolina, then home to Tampa Bay, those next 3.
Yeah. So the middle 3 games for the Eagles are tough. They got to take care of business against the Panthers and the Giants. And the Packers, the Lions have, 3 really tough games. So I don't think it is a slam dunk either way, Pat. I really don't.
Yeah.
A lot of it depends on what happens tomorrow night, in my view. If the Packers lose at the Lions tomorrow night, then it's going to be tough to catch the Lions.
I think you may be right, especially because that Bears, for instance, the Bills game is not an NFC game. That wouldn't help the Eagles as much as if the Lions lost in the conference. All right, Zander, thanks very much for that. All right, Sal Pal, I dragged you all around the NFL, but I finished strong with the Philadelphia Eagles. Any chance you think they're going to – I mean, Carolina is playing teams tough right now. And, the old adage about any given Sunday, Carolina could easily have won that game last week against Tampa. The Eagles can't expect a walkover here, can they?
Bryce Young, Vic Fangio. That's easy math for me, Pat. That's why you got a 10.5-point spread.
Yeah. And then with Pittsburgh coming in, I don't know. It's amazing. I mean, maybe we'll try and find some time to talk about the Steelers next week, because that's the only guy, Sal, who I think should give Nick Sirianni a run for his money is Mike Tomlin, who has never won a Coach of the Year. But to be 10-2,
wow, I did not know that. Is that true?
Yes, with the quarterbacking that he's had this year, he's done a heck of a job with that Steeler team. And
he was made for Hard Knocks, by the way.
Yeah, I think he was. You think he was? Yeah, he was. All right, Sal Pal, thanks a lot for joining me. The matchup show this week. Anything in particular you're featuring?
Oh, we are going to feature it all, Pat. Week 14. You got to get the bootlaces strapped real tight. Buckle up your seatbelt. Here we go. Yep. It's the month of December. We're playing tackle football in America, and we're getting paid to do it. Come on now.
All right. All right, Sal Pal. Thanks a lot. Appreciate all the time. Thank you, and we'll talk to you real soon.
Always the best, Pat. Love this week in pro football. Give Tim McManus my best, and I'll talk to you next week.
All right, Sal Pal. Thanks very much. All right, Zander. Thanks very much. Let's bring this gentleman up here, the host of the NFL Matchup Show, and the latest member of the Italian-American Sports Hall of Fame and Hall of Fame selector himself, Sal Paolantonio. Sal, how you doing?
Pat, I'm doing great. Going into week 14, feeling strong. Got a lot going on in my life personally with 4 granddaughters and all that kind of stuff. But with Thanksgiving and Christmas, it's a whirlwind. But we're getting it all done, Pat. We're getting it all done. And I got my granddaughter Audrey starring in the Nutcracker Ballet coming up next week, the day before the Eagles play the Steelers. So I'm really excited about that weekend.
Good for you, pal. A jam-packed weekend. Jam-packed for you. Good job. All right, Sal, I want to get right into it. I'm going to hold off on the Eagles now for a few minutes till after our break, because I have a ton of things I want to ask you about them. But and get to a little bad and ugly right here. Kirk Cousins, 4 picks, and one of them a pick 6 and a terrible loss. I've been talking about this. He is such a streak quarterback. Give me a quick take. NFC South. Is there anybody there remotely worth worrying about?
Well, the Bucs went on that 4-game losing streak. If they had not lost 4 in a row, the Falcons would be out of this race. But that really set the Bucs back. So the Bucs have a shot. I mean, their schedule is pretty tough down the stretch. I like Baker Mayfield and the production of that offense. This defense is a little sketchy. But the thing about Kirk Cousins is we've seen it before. End of the season, postseason,
Yep.
he just doesn't get the job done, and he throws those interceptions.
Yeah.
And this is the reason why they went out and got Michael Penix Jr. As a hedge against the future.
Yeah. Yeah, he's picking a bad time right now. He's such a street quarterback. He's the ultimate street quarterback, but he's just the Jameis Winston right now, the NFC. All right. I also want to ask you in terms of bad, the suspension that was brought down to the Texans, Azeez Al-Shahir, in the game against Jacksonville. It's the only time you and I will ever talk AFC South. But I wanted to specifically ask you this, was I hear a lot of talk from NFL players, and I understand it, about what are they supposed to do here? The quarterback goes to slide, and if you in any way touch him once he starts that slide, I don't care if you're in midair, you're going to get some laundry, all right? And I think I can't help think too, Sal, about guys like Patrick Mahomes, who they head for the sideline, and then all of a sudden they make a 90-degree turn and head right up the sideline. And I think defenses are getting a little frustrated here about what these rules are for quarterbacks. Do you think the league is going to have to take a look at, quote, the slide, unquote?
I do not. I emphatically disagree with that point of view in every possible way. I think it was pretty clear that Trevor Lawrence was sliding. He wasn't performing any kind of okie doke. And that player on Houston should have been suspended, perhaps even worse than he was, more than he was. I think John Runyon got it right. There is a long list of fouls by that player.
Yeah, right. And, he's a recidivist. You're right.
And his egregious behavior in this particular case deserved a suspension, and I'm surprised they didn't suspend him for more than just 3 or 4 games. Right. I thought it warranted the ejection, the immediate ejection, and I just don't understand anybody trying to tell me that Trevor Lawrence was, may have been in a position to make the defender vulnerable in his actions in any way, shape, or form. He was going down, and the defender led with his elbow right to the face and the head and the jaw. That's exactly the no-no that you don't want to see. Right. And for Tom Brady even to come out and say what he said today is ridiculous. Tom Brady, for years and years and years, would complain to the referees about getting hit. Right. And he would also slide feet first and kick the defenders.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's. I tell you, I don't think it's going to go away. But what you just said there, I think you're 100% right as far as that particular play. But it does. I think it annoys a lot of NFL defensive players when Mahomes does what he does relative to the side.
Yeah, well, guess what? Nobody is picking up a $70, $80, $100, $200 ticket to see this defensive player from Houston. They want to go see Trevor Lawrence. They want to go see Pat Mahomes. They want to go see Jalen Hurts.
Yeah. All right.
That's what drives ratings. That's what drives ticket prices. This is, and the NFL understands that. You have to protect the quarterback. You have to protect the players all the way. I'm for player safety and protecting the players in whatever way you can. And that was an egregious bad hit.
Right. Sal, I wanted to touch too on some ugly and get your opinion again, because you've stood on 1,000 NFL sidelines in your career. How do you possibly explain this religious adherence to timeouts, which led to the Chicago Bears getting on the plane back to Chicago with 1 timeout in their pocket in a 3-point loss to Detroit?
Yeah, that was really bad, Pat. I don't understand it. That was one of the worst game management situations. And it was a fireable offense, and that's what happened.
That's right.
I don't get it.
Yeah,
I have always been in favor of a bench coach. And you're right. I have stood on almost 1,000 sidelines during the game. And many times I'm out there in the fourth quarter getting ready to do an interview. And so I am always watching what the head coach is doing.
Right.
And they're out there by themselves on an island. Joe Torre had Don Zimmer.
Right.
There's so much happening at such a high rate of speed. Why don't you have a bench coach who can point out something that you don't see? There's no harm in it, Pat. There's no harm in it.
Yeah.
There's only good can come of it.
Yeah.
You have the headset on. Maybe the bench coach is not right by your side. Maybe he's up in the booth giving you some help.
Yeah. I also thought it was noteworthy, Sal, the comment by Caleb Williams, in which they asked him straight out, did you think about calling the timeout? And his quote was along the lines of, well, maybe if when I'm in the league a little bit longer, I might do something like that. But for now, I'm just trying to make the best play I can for the Bears. Boy, it just speaks to Sal that it's hard to get anybody to take ownership. We've made almost like robots out of the quarterback position.
Oh, well, Pat, he's a rookie, and he's not going to countermand his head coach as a rookie quarterback. He's just not.
All right. Let me squeeze just one more in before we get to a break. And I can't help it. The New York Jets, 21-7.
Pat, what are you doing? We're doing Bears and Jets. Pat.
I know. But this is what
we got the 10-2 Philadelphia Eagles, Pat. What are we doing?
We're going to take a break. We're going to do all Eagles after the break. I'm just asking you. You got a 42-year-old quarterback who's allegedly going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. What the hell is Aaron Rodgers doing in New York? Throws a pick six when you're up 21-7 against Seattle. I mean, how did Rodgers fall so fast so far?
Well, Leonard Williams, who committed the pick six, former Jet, former first-round pick of the Jets, said, and I quote, Aaron Rodgers doesn't like to get hit anymore. Now, that is an amazing public admission by an NFL player about another NFL player. Frankly, right. I have never heard a guy of Leonard Williams' caliber calling out a guy of Aaron Rodgers' caliber like that. And I'm interested to see what Aaron Rodgers' reaction when he's on Pat McAfee, I believe it's tomorrow. Yeah. And then when he answers questions from the New York media in Florham Park, which I believe is the next day, I want to know exactly what he thinks. Yeah. Is he afraid to take a hit at this point, or is he gun shy in any way, shape, or form?
Yeah, interesting. We'll look for that too. All right, Sal, when we get back, I want to
when we get back, more Jets and Bears, Pat.
No. We're going to go right to the top. We're going to go right to the top of the food chain here. We're going to talk about what I consider to be the best team in the NFL. And I want you to get Sal's opinion on how the head coach has managed to turn this around so quickly from just a month ago. We're going to do all that next on This Week in Pro Football, presented by Kennedy Auto.